In this video, I've driven a real truck. It feels like I'm the captain at the helm. Friends, I am in Chicago, the city of wind, gangsters, towers, amazing views of Lake Michigan, and the set of cult movies. But do you know what else makes it famous? This city is the heart of American trucking. It's the crossroads of the biggest transport companies in the US. Truck drivers come here hoping to get a steady job or at least a well-paid load to haul halfway across the country. And that is, people look for that very road romance here. Just you, the road, the truck, and a heavy load behind you. Of course, it's not just about romance. Freight orders in the US promise good money. In the US, being a truck driver or simply a trucker is a hard, sometimes dangerous, but very well-paid job. And guess who's taking it up? Of course, migrants, especially those from Russia, Ukraine, and other ex-Soviet countries. Those whose names are Sasha or Ivan. They move to the US and make good money here, transporting goods between warehouses. If American truckers united to form an independent state, it would be the 13th most populous country in North America, ranking above Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. The reason? Lots of truckers in the US. According to the American Trucking Association, there are about 3.6 million of them, though these numbers vary. Anyway, this job is quite popular. And yes, if truckers actually established a country, it would be multinational. But again, figures vary. The job portal Zipia claims that 60% of truckers are white. Latinos and African Americans come next. More and more drivers are immigrants. Since 2000, their number has doubled by 2021. Most foreign truckers come from Mexico. There are also drivers from El Salvador, Guatemala, India, China, Poland, Ukraine, and from Russia. My guide in the Ukrainian village is Denis Panev. He himself used to work as a driver in the US. He is one of those migrants who achieved the American dream. After working as a trucker, he built a large logistics business. Today he showed me his company. Where are we going now?
We're driving to one of the biggest trucker parking lots around Chicago. I just want to show you how huge it is and what it looks like.
Is this where they park?
Yes, for long-term stays. For a day, a week, or a month. It's not the kind of lot where you just sleep and head out. I'd say it's mostly for the locals. It's one of the newest and biggest truck stops in the US. Around 1,000 truckers park here.
But even here, it's a bit cramped since hundreds of other logistics companies use this place too.
Most of these trucks are driven by immigrants. Ukrainians, Moldovans, Russians, Georgians.
So it's basically just a place where you can park for a week?
Yes. A real plus is that it's well secured, with a fence, cameras, and gates.
So you don't stay in the truck?
No, but the key thing is that it won't get stolen. But open lots are a different story. Thieves can steal trucks easily. They have special keys, show up while the driver's at home, drive the truck away, and then either strip it for parts or ship the entire vehicle to Mexico.
The Chicago suburb of Elk Grove Village is the heart of American trucking. This area is full of warehouses, logistics company offices, and trucks. It's known as the largest industrial park in North America. It covers almost 65 million square feet. That's roughly equivalent to 800 soccer fields. The location is perfect. Right next to it, there is Chicago's main airport, plus several major highways. Railroads also pass very close by. It turned into a logistics hub in the mid-20th century when truckers started taking over the freight business. Back in 1962, the business park had around 90 companies. Today, there are over 5,500. That's about 100,000 employees. They are loading and unloading cargo, running the numbers, taking orders, and so on. This is the perfect place to see what life on the road is really like. I've always been a fan of American trucks. I love their powerful, aggressive look. European trucks just don't have this character. They are flat and unpretentious. American rigs look badass. Look at these chrome stacks and massive mirrored bumpers. That's insane. Fiat trucks are really cool too. I've always loved it, but now something weird is going on with the new trucks. Is this the latest model?
Yes, it's the latest one. This is the 5th generation Cascadia.
But it's got no character, just like Volvo.
Well, it's slightly different.
Come on, this is absolutely same. It's just like with cop cars. Remember that Ford? Crown Victoria? Yeah. It had it all. Style, personality, a giant hood. And now they are just, I don't know. Or take another example. Taxis. They were Fords as well, the yellow ones. Man, they looked great. Maybe I'm just getting old and grumpy. This is the latest one. We can check out what's inside. There are cameras all over, you see? It's got mirrors too, because the law says so. A leather curtain. Oh God. A leather curtain. I know it's faux leather, but imagine if it were croc. Go full luxury, and this curtain could totally be croc. Imagine a lion embroidered in gold here. Oh, a fridge. Okay, not bad. Just like a minibar in a fancy hotel. Here's some kind of a drawer.
Here you see a wardrobe. So the driver can hang up his jacket. Classy, right? You know what's interesting? They are getting more and more comfortable. You hardly see manual gearboxes now. Sure, it's still an option, but almost nobody picks it. And all this comfort makes it easier to bring women into trucking. You probably won't see women driving the classic trucks. But on Volvo or this Freightliner, it's completely normal nowadays to see women driving. Driving's just so easy now with all this comfort and visibility.
Later we'll meet a lady trucker, but for now it's time for me to take the wheel. My first time driving a truck, guys! Let's see what it's like. All right, drive. God, this is so cool! Wow, this thing's got power!
See if you can squeeze in there. Watch the mirrors.
Watch the mirrors. Tell me it's insured. But don't worry. I used to play a truck simulator as a kid. It runs pretty well. So, Dennis, you hiring me?
Absolutely. You're heading out today.
Yeah, can we drive here? It's huge. You can see everything. The whole world is in front of you. And you're heading straight into this world. It feels like I'm the captain at the helm. Man, that's awesome. I could put a TV here and hang a rug with deer and tigers to make it look nice. Gotta have some fringe here. And a nodding dog too. Can't forget that. We need some air fresheners here. And a stripper pole over there. Come on, you never know. Don't you worry, it's solely for working out. Only for fitness. Feels like you're the captain of a huge cruise liner. I have a plan. If you guys stop watching and liking my videos, I'll go drive trucks in the US. I hope Dennis hires me. Put it in neutral. Brake. Okay, we're good. Turn it off. Friends, I've already told you that in many countries, cryptocurrency has become an official means of payment. For example, in El Salvador and the Central African Republic, Bitcoin can be used alongside the national currency. People use it to pay for shopping, rent, and even taxes. And in Switzerland, Japan, and the United Arab Emirates, you can legally buy real estate or a car with crypto. The world is gradually moving toward a reality where digital assets are becoming real money. But in Spain and in many other European countries, things aren't quite that simple yet. Yes, crypto market regulations are developing fast here, but fiat and crypto are still stored in different banks. If you want to pay in euros, you need one app. If you want to pay with crypto, you need another app. And of course, there are fees, limits, and endless waiting times. Fortunately, new services are starting to solve this problem. One of them is Keytom, a modern app that brings all your assets together in one wallet, both crypto and fiat. With Keytom, you no longer need a bunch of different banks and exchanges. Everything is managed in one place. With Keytom, you can send instant transfers to more than 150 countries, issue virtual cards, and link them to Google Pay. You can use it to pay for purchases, book hotels, or rent cars directly from your crypto balance. It's genuinely convenient and you don't need any middlemen. All transactions come with no hidden fees and transfers work 24/7. Online registration takes less than 2 minutes. Keytom operates under financial licenses from the EU and Canada, and single purchase limits can reach up to $150,000. The app is available on the App Store and Google Play. Open your account today. It only takes a couple of minutes. Click the link in the description and get your virtual card that works in 180 countries. That's it. I want to be an American trucker. But how am I going to do it? Maybe Georgie can help me. He's got both professional and life experience. I'm doing this for the first time in my life. I'm 42 years old, and this is the first time I've never ridden in a rig. How long have you been driving a truck?
I've been driving at Max Trucking for 8 years. When I first moved to the US, I only had a regular driver's license. So I could only drive a box truck. I wasn't allowed to drive big rigs. I spent a year and a half driving box trucks, and once I got my green card, I could finally go for the CDL. I joined the company in 2018, and I've been working here ever since.
Why didn't you choose a different career?
Then I'd have to spend 3 years and about 150, 160K to get my diploma recognized here, because they don't accept it in the US. I wasn't ready to spend 3 years and that much money on top of it. So my wife went to study and I started working on a truck. After about a year and a half, I realized the job isn't that hard, but you have to stay focused all the time. You have to watch the truck, handle paperwork, and stay alert on the road. The old Soviet school really prepared me for this. First of all, I'm always strict with myself. And the same goes for everything else. I try to do everything the right way.
What's the hardest part of your job?
I'll put it this way. Some things I still can't fully understand or accept. It's probably the waiting around while your truck gets loaded and unloaded. Because all of us, people from the post-Soviet countries and Eastern Europe, are trained to get things done fast and maintain quality. Americans, by contrast, are more focused on hourly pay. So they just approach work differently. The longer they unload the truck,
The more they earn because time is money.
that's the toughest part.
According to the job site Indeed, truck drivers make around $95,000 a year. That's if you get hired by a company. If you're self-employed, you can earn even more. But even $95,000 is more than the average salary. For comparison, truck drivers in Russia make around $1,400 a month. So that's about $17,000 a year.
People think if you make $2,500 a week, you'll earn $10K a month. But you have to be on the clock all the time. You're on the road 31 days a month. There are very few who really work nonstop every month. Most just want to make a paycheck. Some come here for just a few months. They don't have an apartment or anything. They just work, earn money, and go back home. But today there are fewer and fewer of them. Most people come here to stay. Some come by choice, others because of the war. Immigration has changed. Now it's mostly older people who need to be home with their families. Almost no one works 4 weeks straight.
On US highways, you'll see both self-employed and company drivers. In the first case, the driver owns the truck. It's up to each person. Good trucks aren't cheap. Used trucks start at 45K, while new ones go from 120K. It depends on the condition and technical features. Some trucks come with a truly bare-bones setup, barely fit to sleep overnight. The others are like real homes on wheels. They come with a bedroom, shower, toilet, and more. Rigs often bought on credit or leased. The standard rate is $2,000 a month. And you still have to pay for fuel. Trucks have huge fuel consumption, considering the miles per gallon. In general, 6 to 8 mpg is good for a big truck. In Europe, that's about 30-40 liters per 100 kilometers. Diesel prices vary from state to state. For example, here in Illinois, a gallon costs about $350. And that's pretty expensive. And that's without insurance, which can cost thousands a month.
It's still going, dog. Oh my goodness.
That's why truckers get paid so much, especially those who run and maintain their own rigs. They can make $180K to $250K a year. The standard rate is about $1.50 to $2 per mile. The customer gets more than a driver. It's a service. So if you're shipping a load from Chicago to New York, get a couple thousand ready. As for me, I'm hitting the road. Why do you work for a company instead of buying your own truck?
I was about to buy my own truck twice, but buying property stopped me both times. We were looking for a truck, but at the same time we wanted to buy a house. In the end, we managed to buy a house, so we decided to get into real estate. We got one house and recently a second one. So we decided to keep moving in that direction. We're buying houses and growing our business.
Georgie goes on long hauls that last for months. He works hard every day, but driving alone can't be that fun.
Let's go! Yeah.
Arsen and Julia are a married couple from Turkmenistan. They lived in Russia for a while and in 2019 moved to the US. They're out on the road together with their 2 cute dogs. All right, tell me why you moved here and decided to become truckers.
It was my husband's decision.
So, nobody asked you?
Just joking. At first, Arsen drove a car hauler, a pickup truck. Arsen was hauling cars with it. But nobody told him that. It's better to get a CDL first. So he spent about a year driving a pickup. To be honest, it was a really hard time because he was always busy with work. I was stuck at home, and it was so boring. It was even harder being so far away from my husband, especially since Arsen can't just work 3 weeks and then relax. He kept going month after month.
And you couldn't take it anymore and thought it was time to stop messing around. So you got your license too, right?
Arsen was the first to get his CDL. It took me about 6 weeks to learn. I followed all the steps. First, I got my permit, then I went to school. Later, I practiced parking and driving trucks. I passed on my first try. Even some guys failed the first time, but I passed.
One of the main reasons they drive together is money. That way they can take turns and drive more miles.
We make about $3,500 a week.
In total?
Yes.
Do you take turns driving or?
Yes. Sometimes we basically don't stop at all, only to refuel the truck.
Is it more profitable?
Yeah, definitely. The pay is much higher. You get paid per mile, and team drivers make more than solo drivers. So for us, it's way more profitable. That's one of the reasons why I got my CDL too, not only to support my husband in the truck, but also to have another source of income myself.
And how do you guys spend your free time?
When we have a lighter load and no stress, we sometimes stop at really beautiful spots along the way. For example, you might find rest areas with amazing views on the road. Some of them even have small exhibits inside. Most of the time I cook myself. We almost never buy ready meals. The only exception is when we stop in a city like Chicago and come across European grocery stores. Then we can actually grab something to treat ourselves. Once in a while,
Since trucking is such a huge industry in the US, there's a whole service ecosystem for truckers. Drivers usually rest at truck stops or plazas, basically huge all-in-one centers. So where are we going now?
We're heading to a truck stop. Inside, you can do a lot of things. You can do laundry, take a shower.
And even grab something to eat.
Nah, exactly. The majority of truckers, of course, buy their stuff there at the truck stops. There they can buy fast food, water, some snacks, and even meds. So, if you get into an accident on the road, you can buy a first aid kit there. So it's like,
A little oasis to relax.
yes, for truckers. You can also find massage chairs there, and sometimes even a gym.
Are stops like these typical for truckers?
That's very common. We usually stop a few times a day. I think. I have no idea how many times we've been to stops like these. Plus, there are also rest areas. Basically, they're the same, just without showers. This side is for cars only, and the main lot is on the other side. Most of it's free, but there are plenty of paid spots too.
Do you start paying after a certain time?
It doesn't matter. Sometimes other lots are full, so you end up having to pay. What's the parking fee?
Around $15 to $20.
It costs around $15 to $20. You can get a hot dog here, but I'll probably go with a salad and some eggs. Maybe some fruit too.
How much do you pay for breakfast?
Well, I'd say around $10 per person at most. Yeah, around $10 or $15.
Okay, what else can we find here?
Clothing for truckers, drinks, toys, some souvenirs. People driving between states can get one as a gift.
So you can buy this horse and ride it all around the cab.
Yes.
For role-playing? I don't know.
You can even grab a hat like this. It makes a fun little gift. By the way, it's not that cheap for $21.
You can also do your laundry here.
This is how I normally wash my clothes. There are washing machines and dryers in this room. I load everything into the washer, and we go to the shower. When we come back, I throw everything into the dryer. While everything's drying, we just relax a bit. We grab a snack, or I cook something, because I mostly cook myself.
But you cook in the truck, right?
Yes, I have everything for cooking there.
How much do you pay for laundry?
It costs $3, but the price depends on the mode you choose. Usually it's around $3.25 to $3.75. The same goes for the dryer.
Julia didn't lie. She really has everything for cooking.
Our Sin's area is mostly here, and mine's over there. I have everything here. Microwave, tea, and chicory, because we don't drink coffee. We only drink chicory or something like that. Here you'll find seasonings, utensils, and stuff like that.
Wow, it's all so well organized.
I really love cooking, yeah.
Do you have a stove?
I have an air fryer. I've also got an egg cooker, a waffle maker, and a big frying pan. I can actually cook anything I want. Let's open this one. Right here. Look. There's special things for the air fryer. There are also forks, spoons, grains, and stuff for baking. I use the air fryer for baking. That's why I have sugar and flour here. What else? Oh, the fridge! We try to eat healthy. For example, we always have salads and meat in our diet.
Isn't it hard to eat healthy in the US?
Yes, it's very hard, but we're trying. Honestly, we don't get anything at truck stops. No fast food whatsoever. Back when we started driving, we bought that stuff too, and it ended up giving us health issues. That's why I'm in this truck. I remember those days. Arsen wasn't eating well on his own. He gained weight and got some health problems. So I got my CDL, and now I take care of his meals. This is where Arsen sleeps, and I sleep here with the dogs. There are the dogs' bowls in our fridge. This is Tom and Jerry, and the other one is Sim. Good boys, good boys.
Their truck is basically a home on wheels, but it's far from comfort. The cabin's pretty cramped and there's not much space and you have to spend hours in it. American truckers lose their health on this job.
The challenges are lack of sleep and little movement. We actually do okay with eating healthy, but we still don't get much physical activity. Another problem is sleep. People often think that driving in a team means better rest. But actually, we don't sleep well when we're driving together. We can only get proper sleep when the truck is parked.
Can't you sleep while the truck's moving?
I can't get deep sleep. It's all curves, rough roads, and bumps, and so on.
What's it like living this kind of family life? You're always together in a small space, so you can't just slam a door and leave whenever you want.
Well, I have a special curtain for it. When we're fighting, I just pull it closed. And my husband's like, "Stay over there." This is the best thing about trucking. If we were apart, we wouldn't talk after an argument. But here, I can just go hug and kiss him, and the fight is over. And we just keep driving.
Most American roads are really boring. How do you cope with it?
It's both yes and no. When you drive through beautiful places, it never gets boring.
Like what? Can you name your top 3 states?
Washington, Oregon, Montana, and Pennsylvania. It's really beautiful when you drive through the mountains there.
Which states do you find the most boring? Like places you really don't want to travel to at all?
I hate Texas.
Why?
I can't stand the interchanges there, and the roads in general. They're constantly under construction, and it's hot as hell. What else? Maybe Arizona? Utah, by the way, is really beautiful. It's another gorgeous place in the US.
Also, Julia isn't a fan of New York.
It's really hard to drive a truck there. Endless signs saying no trucks. Our GPS goes crazy there.
Do you guys have a special GPS for trucks?
Yes. For example, we've got this truck GPS here, plus Google Maps on our phones. They complement each other. But of course, the main one is the truck GPS, since there are many places where trucks aren't allowed, like bridges with specific height limits.
Is this a company camera that monitors you?
Right.
Doesn't it bother you? What about family life?
Honestly, sometimes we just turn it off. Stay out of our lives.
So you turn it off during the important moments?
Well, yeah. But from the company's perspective and for safety, you need these cameras. For example, if there's an accident or something like that, this camera is really important. It records everything, whether you're right or wrong. So it can help.
As Julia says, you always have to stay alert on American roads.
Accidents happen all the time. Every single day, people die in these accidents. On the roads. I'll tell you something. In July, we were driving to New Mexico. Then, out of nowhere, a dust storm hit. We couldn't see a thing. There were signs saying, "Pull over," and Arsen got off the road. But right in front of us, 2 trucks got into a serious accident. 1 man died there. Everything happened right before our eyes. It was terrifying. Just terrible. But you know, in this company we work for, everything is good. Before, we worked for another company. There, we got a truck on a lease-to-buy deal. It was a company truck. Lease-to-buy basically means you drive it and you pay for it. At that time, we were hauling dry freight. We got loaded with hazardous cargo, huge metal coils. They didn't load us properly, and on the very first turn, we went straight into the ditch. The truck completely flipped over. We were with our 2 dogs. The truck was totaled. Arsen was taken to the hospital. Then I was too. The trucking company treated us terribly. They didn't pay us anything. and we lost a lot of money. I can't say whether they had insurance problems or if they're just that kind of people. They kept giving us empty promises for a year. In the end, we just gave up on it. Of course, we had a lawyer. Sad story.
The roads are monitored by dispatchers. Dennis will give us a look at their work. The trucking business is more than just drivers and loads. Everything here is high-tech, just like a startup office. That's a map.
It's the live location of all the trucks. It shows where they are and how fast they're going. We can also see what's going on the road. Let's say we want to check out a specific truck. Right now, we can see its entire route for the day. We can also see it in real time, but only if we want to.
Can we see the cab too?
Yes.
Even if he's with a woman?
Yep, we'll see it.
That's a problem.
Depends on who she is, though.
Wait, hold on. It's a really important question. What do you think about a road love?
I've never had this experience.
I know, you're married, that's clear. But what about the drivers? What do they think?
Look, while preparing for this video, I asked all our drivers if anyone could help me with this question.
Did they say they're not into it?
They said they have no idea. Nobody's seen anything and they think it's just a myth. There's no sex industry among truckers in the US. Someone just made this up.
Of course, they're deeply religious, decent people.
Exactly.
Every morning they brush their teeth, put on a hat, and drive their trucks, ignoring all the temptations along the way.
Come on, there are no temptations. We are not in the movie.
Okay, imagine this. You turn on a camera and see your driver with a lady.
That just can't happen with us because it's not allowed.
It's not allowed.
By law, no one can be in the cab without the permission. We need to give written permission for a passenger. Anything else is a violation, both of the law and company rules.
Okay, now imagine this. Your driver calls you and says, listen, here's the thing. I'm in Montana, I haven't seen a single person for a week. And then I see this beauty at a stop. I've never seen such a beautiful woman. Miss California herself. She's here right now. Please, quickly send me permission. I'll just give her a ride and cover the camera.
No, you can't give permission for that.
Miss California herself? Do you even have a heart?
She'll have to apply for the job here. We have to hire her officially, at least for these 30 minutes.
Well, Dennis is probably just shy. Trucker Georgie told us what it's really like. Is there road love?
Yes, there is a lot of it in all shapes and sizes. From A to Z, you name it. You'll find everything, boys, girls, or something in between. I'll explain it to you. Take Memphis, Tennessee. Right in the city center. There is a chain company that runs parking and gas stations. So they deal with big rigs in the US. When you stop there for coffee, a shower, or some food, you'll see 15 to 20 girls hanging around, if you know what I mean. The price is $100.
Per session?
Yeah, 100 around. If you want an overnight or whatever, it's all negotiable. Or take Nevada, everyone knows it. It's all legal there. As you drive through Las Vegas or Reno, you can see signs reading, "The Girls." These are places designed for love, let's say so. And there are also truck stops. In Las Vegas, they're called Wild Wild West. They've got everything there. Asian, black, white, whatever you're into.
What about Russian girls there?
I never used this service. Of course, somebody came up to me. That's how it works. In the locations I mentioned, for example, a driver would just go up to them and talk about the details. I had like 2 or 3 situations where I just poured my coffee out the window. It happened in North Carolina. Right, in North Carolina, in Raleigh, the state capital, there is a large parking. I was just about to go to sleep when someone knocked. I stepped out, and she offered me herself from dusk till dawn. That's happened like 3 times already. The way they look like, it just turns me off.
I've heard truckers can't bring anyone into their cab. Only authorized people are allowed here. How does that work if you invite a woman?
Nothing's impossible if you really want it.
What about drinking?
I love alcohol. But whenever I'm driving, I stick to one rule. No drinking at all.
Does it happen that people drive drunk?
Yes, it happens. I've seen tons of videos of people getting pulled over and they're completely drunk. Totally wasted. Some are stoned or on drugs. It's all out there. And it's a danger not just to them, but to everyone else too.
How big of a problem is this?
Honestly, I think it's a huge problem. There are truck stops where alcohol is sold openly. You just walk in like it's a regular store. You can buy whiskey, vodka, whatever. I get it, someone can just have a beer. But some get completely drunk.
From what I get, you can grab vodka straight at the gas station. Not a big deal here.
Just put the bottle in a bag.
Okay, what about drugs?
Not a problem at all.
Not you, of course.
No, not me. Just speaking generally. There's a city called Albuquerque in New Mexico. There's a Flying J truck stop not far from downtown. These are chain truck stops. When you drove in, there was always a black BMW on the left. I don't know how it is now. I haven't been there for a while. They had everything, from weed and stuff to harder drugs. Pretty much was sold out in the open.
Everyone knows?
Everyone knows. Cops, sheriffs, all of them. And it all still works. I've seen people smoke or put something under their tongue and just get in the truck.
There's a reason why I asked about alcohol. From talking with Dennis, I got that in some companies, drinking drivers are a real problem. Someone went to him for advice about a driver who got drunk.
We didn't tell him we knew he was drinking. We didn't freak out, got it? We didn't give him the load. Today he's still drinking in the truck. Yesterday, at around 5 a.m., he was driving drunk somewhere. We don't know what to do. Just not to load him, wait until he sobers up, and then just fire him? Or send a guy by plane to pick up the truck? Or is it too much? What would you do?
No, in that case, you should call the police. He's drunk now. If he drives, he can cause an accident or hurt someone.
But if he's at the gas station, he's not allowed to drink in the truck, right?
No, of course not.
Well, so you're saying no drinking on the job? I got it.
Look, I'll explain it. These are Sprinter trucks. This is the brunch where you don't need a commercial license. You literally can fly to the US and start hauling cargo the next day.
Do you have those too?
No,
He's not your driver?
no. That's a friend of mine.
Right, that always happens to a friend. It's not yours.
That's never happened to me because in my company, drivers don't drink.
Guys, I'm at Marx's grave, Edward Michael Marx. No, he didn't write capital, he made it. In 1982, here in Illinois, Marx founded a company called New World Van Lines. Looks like transportation was his whole life. After he died, the Chicago Marx got this tombstone. Actually, his father was into transportation too, but he didn't build a big business. But under the Marx Jr., a relatively small company became a national corporation. It expanded to 48 states across the USA, and Edward relied on his own in-house drivers. He didn't outsource deliveries, and he didn't rent trucks. He bought them. In fact, he ran things seriously. Marx died in 1995. He was buried in Chicago and got a tombstone shaped like a truck. In the US, such tombstones became a tradition. We're used to seeing crosses and candles at accident sites in many countries to remember those who died there, to remember the driver and passengers who lost their lives. But among American truckers, granite truck-shaped monuments are common, so everyone at the cemetery knows a trucker is buried there. Truck monuments show trucks front and side. The models can be different, but mostly these are American classics like Peterbilt or Freightliner. They can even add some trim and a bit of chrome, or put a photo of the deceased right in the driver's seat. From what I've seen online, these show up all over the US. So friends, drop a comment and tell me what you think about these kinds of tombstones. Would you want a tombstone showing you at work after you're gone? Have you ever wondered why trucks and their drivers became so iconic, even kind of sacred, in the US? Today, it's the main driving force of the American economy. Literally, trucks account for about 70% of all domestic freight in the US. But it hasn't always been like that. Back in the day, the US was known as the land of railroads. At the end of the 19th century, trains were the priority. Building new railroads turned into a nationwide project. In the 1860s, while the US was torn by the Civil War, Congress passed the Pacific Railroad Act. When it opened in 1869, the golden age of railroads began. By 1916, the US already had 254,000 miles of railroad track. But soon, trains met serious competition. The Ford TT, built on the first mass-produced car in the world, it was a small truck produced from 1917. Up to 300,000 of these trucks were produced per year. True, they couldn't go long distances yet, since there weren't any good roads. Surprisingly, the Great Depression came to the rescue. One of the ways to combat unemployment was building highways. President Roosevelt considered it a good idea to fund public works from the federal budget. The costs were covered by selling land along the routes and charging tolls. After World War II, highway construction went into overdrive. In 1956, President Dwight Eisenhower ordered the construction of 40,000 miles of high-speed roads in the US. At least 2 lanes each way, plus interchanges, bridges, and tunnels. Basically, they were real highways. This huge network boosted the growth of road freight. Trucks were more mobile and faster. They could often get to places trains just couldn't reach. In short, it was in the mid-20th century when America switched from locomotives to trucks. A diminishing role of railroads in the US economy led to a ghost town popping up right near Chicago. Look at this wasteland.
How much land is freed up here?
There used to be houses everywhere. It reminds me of Detroit right now. There are abandoned houses that haven't been torn down yet. Most of these lots used to have houses that were abandoned, and they've demolished most of them. Crazy. The whole street feels completely dead.
What's interesting is that land in Chicago is very expensive. Property is expensive. Taxes are high. We're only 30 minutes from one of the priciest cities in America. But here the land is cheap because nobody wants it. Nobody wants to live here. Everyone moves away. It's really close to the city, though.
It takes about half an hour without traffic. It's like where you live, except that you're in the north. The story with these houses is usually that when people move away, the first thing they do is board them up and try to sell them. If a house sits on the market too long, people realize it won't sell, so they tear it down. What's left is basically a loan, that's it. They do this because if anything happens on that property, the owner is responsible. If you own a house but don't live in it and it just sits there, just like these huge abandoned buildings, it might collapse and someone can get hurt. In this case, it's gonna be on you. You're responsible for safety on your property, so instead of dealing with that risk, it's easier to demolish it. That's crazy. It's even worse than Detroit. Detroit is actually more alive. God, this place is creepy. People still live in some houses, like this parked car costs more than the house. Most houses have either been torn down or will be soon. This is how they look now, some burned, some completely abandoned. I've driven around the residential areas and I think the population is way lower than the official numbers say. About every other house that's still there is either empty, burned down, or just ruined. But remember, many houses are already torn down, so usually they just sit abandoned for a while, and then the owners tear them down, leaving just an empty lot. The city now is full of such oases, a few scattered lots here and there. They are used to be houses. It's a really sad place. I mean, you see a dead city with empty windows. What can I say? It's really sad and depressing to see. I don't know if Gary can ever be revived, but right now it's really bleak. Gary is one of the most famous abandoned places in the US. It's like Bodie or the Salton Sea in California. Gary's only about 25 miles from downtown Chicago, so it's basically a satellite city, though technically it's in Indiana. Interestingly, Gary is even in a different time zone. Most of Indiana is an hour ahead, but Gary follows Chicago time because it's so closely tied to the city. It just makes sense to follow the time of the nearest big city. But how did it look like earlier? It all comes down to a huge steel plant. The main employer in town was called Gary Works. It opened in 1908. It was a massive steel mill with dozens of smoking chimneys and huge factory halls. In the late 1960s, the Gary Works was at its peak, employing 30,000 people. Almost 1 in 5 residents of Gary. But then things went downhill. The US economy hit hard, environmental regulations changed, and foreign competitors started catching up. On top of that, the railroad began falling apart. It also took a toll on the factory and the city. In 1980, as train service was already struggling, Congress passed an act that lifted many restrictions on railroad companies, allowing them to shut down unprofitable routes. Logistics got messed up, and not every company could adapt. After all, you can't haul coal by truck in such huge amounts. In the end, Gary Works ended up in crisis. By 1990, there were only about 6,000 people working there. To understand that something's wrong, just drive around the streets. For example, check out the train station. Are we there yet?
Yep.
This is the abandoned train station. God. All good? I think we can park here. Honestly, Dennis is a man who always goes by the book. Never seen anyone like him. He only crosses the street on a green light. Well, technically a white light, because this is America. He only crosses the street on a white light. He washes his hands before and after eating. He always puts on a hat before leaving the house. He never breaks any rules. And when I say to him, "Dennis, come on, let's have some fun," he goes, "No, you go ahead. I'll wait for you in the car." Here we are, the abandoned train station. The city has fallen into decline. Thousands of people packed up and left. For example, this is what the city's train station looks like. An abandoned, boarded-up building. It used to be a beautiful building, which was opened in 1910. Now it's just boarded-up ruins. The station was closed in the 1970s when trains started losing out to cars. That said, you can still get to Gary by rail today. A smaller commuter station to Chicago is just a few steps away. Unfortunately, you can't take a train to New York anymore, even though it used to be possible. Inside, there's nothing left, not a single decoration. You can only get into a few technical rooms here. Once it was a beautiful station. It opened in 1910. At old photos, you can see cars, people arriving. Everybody was going here. Now, what was once a beautiful building is now just left. The city promised to turn it into an art center, but something went wrong. As you can see, the art center never opened. I wasn't exaggerating when I compared Gary to Baudi. The city is dying. In 2000, there were 100,000 people living here, and now there are only about 70,000. Honestly, this isn't a place you want to be. But back then, people were lured in with pictures of a beautiful life, saying things like, "Hurry up to buy a house near the future center of the steel world." There was even a rumor that Gary would soon grow to 200,000 residents. But those days are gone. In the early 20th century, they were actively building housing. Sometimes it was very innovative, at least for its time. For example, these houses here, they're called Edison concept houses. The Edison name is not a coincidence. Thomas Edison was a brilliant scientist and inventor. He created the technology used to build these 2-story houses. They're made entirely out of concrete, and the concrete was poured all at once. Walls, floors, ceilings. Everything was concrete. First, they set up the molds, creating the interior and exterior shapes. Then they poured in the concrete and waited for it to set. Finally, the molds were removed and the house was ready. That's it. Edison was literally obsessed with the idea of fast, cheap, practical. Concrete doesn't burn, doesn't melt. It was a game changer. In Gary, 86 houses were built using this technology. You can find something similar in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, but in the end, the idea failed. Pouring a house like a sculpture was simple, even though building the molds was hard and expensive. You can still see some of these concrete houses in Gary, although I have a feeling that their owners would gladly sell them to move somewhere else. Who wants to live in the city of unfulfilled dreams? I also have to say, when you drive around and see so many abandoned houses, some strange people walking around, abandoned playgrounds, it's really creepy. Even filming here doesn't feel safe. I just want to get out of here. I'm right in the center, and I just wanted to show you what this street looked like in the 50s compared to now. You can see that back then it was fully built up. There were shops, there was life, and now not a single building on this street is still in use. Everything's boarded up. Everything is abandoned. And over there, everything is diminished. That's insane. It looks really creepy. There are some guys, I think they're stealing scrap metal. They're yelling at me. Exactly the welcome I wanted. I don't remember ever seeing this level of decay in any city in the US. Sure, there are some problems in America. You'll find abandoned areas or some rundown spots here and there, but I've never come across this kind of neglect anywhere else. It's a whole other level of decay. We're on our way to see the house where Michael Jackson was born because it's right here. And like all the guides say, you should go there during the day and not wander around the neighborhood too much because, you know, stuff happens. It's not the best area. One of Gary's main attractions is this house, the actual birthplace of Michael Jackson. He lived here with his brothers and sisters. It's a tiny house, just over 60 square meters. They lived in pretty rough conditions. The boys shared one room, the parents had another, and the girls were crammed into the living room on a little couch. So you can see the house is just really small. It is still owned by the family, and sometimes tourists come by. Here, people leave notes, locks, bracelets, and stuff like that. So it's kind of a shrine for fans. But let's be real. Even Michael Jackson's house can't save Gary. The city is in terrible condition. Half of the houses around here are simply abandoned. The neighborhood is dying. It looks unsafe. Maybe in 10 years, this could be the only house left. I just don't see anything saving this city. Not even Michael Jackson's house. I'm not sure if anyone's still living here, but anyway, it looks really creepy. Look at this. All these houses are empty. See that one? It's an empty house. Everything is boarded up with a random street lamp, and the next one also abandoned. These two houses over there are boarded up. Yeah, okay. These houses are fenced off. This is the only more or less good-looking place here. You can see some shutters. Looks like someone's taking care of it. It's kind of turned into a memorial, yeah. More like a little cemetery fence vibe. To me, it's kind of unusual. You can tell fans come here. They leave little bracelets, toss coins, keys. Someone even left panties. Check it out. Are they clean or not?
May I skip it?
Come on, don't kill the fun. We just got to a very cool abandoned spot, one of the nicest ones around here. It's a church. I'll try to talk Dennis into climbing inside, into this church. He'll probably say no, because right now he's thinking, I don't want to leave the car here, I don't know. Oh, come on, Ilya, there's nothing to see. It's fenced off. We're not allowed. It looks amazing, just like Abandoned World. I'll try to figure out how to get in. I think I'll find a way. In fact, there are so many rundown spots, I can't even choose where to start. Most of them are falling apart. Everything's been looted. Guys, this place is amazing. An insanely beautiful church, like a totally abandoned world. Hope the ceiling doesn't fall on me. Let's call Dennis.
Hello?
Dennis, what's up? You sure? Check this out. Look at this beauty. Dennis, look!
I'd better watch your video later.
Dennis, come on. Just look at that. Look at this. Isn't it amazing? All right, guys. Dennis is finally here. Yep.
We've got the official permission.
Yep, we've got it. Right now, I'm inside an old abandoned Methodist church. It's turning 100 this year. It's one of the most famous abandoned places in America. It looks absolutely incredible. The building is beautiful. Look at this. The interiors are just fantastic. This is an amazing, majestic church. And of course, it's sad that this place is falling apart. It closed 50 years ago because there weren't enough parishioners. Then it just started to decay. The roof's gone now and everything's overgrown. Speaking of abandoned buildings and ruins, I mean, if they just preserved it, it could have been saved for the future and restored later. But nope, they did nothing. So now it's just falling apart. It'll probably collapse. See, almost no roof left. Rain and weather gonna destroy it fast. By the way, Transformers were filmed here. This place often shows up in movies. This whole story is definitely interesting, but I gotta get out of here. This is the city, guys, about 100 miles from Chicago, like a half-hour drive. Everything's abandoned. Trucking and freight really affected cities like this. Like Gary, kind of reminds me of Detroit. Although in Detroit, there's also an old train station that was abandoned for a long time, but then it was renovated and reopened. There are many unusual spots like this in the US. When you travel by truck, you truly get to see the country, its scale and diversity. You've been to every state, right?
Yeah, except two. I haven't been to Alaska and Vermont.
And Hawaii by truck?
Haven't done that either.
That's what I thought. Okay. What are your 3 favorite states and your 3 most boring ones? The ones where you're like, ugh, I just want to get through this and never see it again.
I'll name my 3 boring ones right away. Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. There's this expression Americans have about the Midwest. They call it flat and ugly. You know what I mean? And on the East Coast, I'm not a fan of New York or New Jersey.
Why New York?
Well, it's narrow, old, kind of rundown. I'm not talking about Buffalo up north. I mean New York City itself, that place is, yeah.
And what are your top 3 favorites?
That would be Montana, North Dakota, and Wyoming.
Oh yes, Montana's gorgeous. I've been there. I haven't been to Wyoming. North Dakota, I've been there, but I honestly don't remember much.
What I like is, first off, it's the North. It's a bit different. There is not so much traffic or hustle. It's cold there and people are different. These states are mostly white. Also, the parking's great. The mentality is different. And the nature there is beautiful. For example, there are lots of national parks, including Yellowstone, that connect to each other. So it all kind of comes together into one big picture that I really like.
America is the land of roads with highways that crisscross the country from west to east and north to south. Just the federal highways alone add up to about 50,000 miles, and that's not even counting the regional ones. But here's the thing, only half of that is paved with asphalt. But don't freak out. The rest isn't just graveled. In the US, there are 3 main types of road surfaces: asphalt, concrete, and composite. Asphalt is simple. It's just regular highways like in Europe, but 5,500 miles are covered with concrete. Concrete is considered way more durable and can last for decades. Roads like that don't require much maintenance. Plus, heavy traffic doesn't cause ruts on them. Drivers actually save fuel on concrete roads, which, believe me, truckers care a lot about. Again, concrete is a game changer. Americans have been using for over 100 years. And when the US really started building multi-lane highways in the mid-20th century, this material was used a lot, especially in the so-called Midwest states, where thousands of massive trucks trucks roll through constantly. But concrete has its downsides too. It's more expensive, can be noisier, and in bright sunlight, it can glare and blind drivers. And making it isn't exactly eco-friendly. That's why in the US, composite roads became a good compromise. They combine the benefits of concrete slabs and asphalt layers. That is, such roads are solid, durable, and smooth. However, they're less noisy, more eco-friendly, and easier to fix. And of course, all that constant road construction gets on truckers' nerves.
If you ask me, the real roads in America are just in a few states. But for the most part, it's just constant construction. Road repairs, closed lanes, potholes, and messed up roads. Like in Indiana, Michigan, New Mexico, and Arizona. Every year it seems like there's road construction all over the US. And yet, real roads are hard to find. It makes you wonder where all the money goes. It's a good question.
But the money on these roads isn't just gone. These roads make money too. The first toll road in the US popped up way back in 1792 in Pennsylvania. The country was just a few years old, and folks were already paying to drive. That practice continued, and today toll roads are pretty common. Right now, there are about 6,000 miles of toll roads in the US. It's a serious expense for American truckers. Only 15 states don't have any toll roads, for example, Iowa and Wisconsin. There's no nationwide system. Every part of the country does it its own way. Some use transponders, some track your license plate and mail you a bill. In Chicago, you can just pay at the toll gate. This system hasn't really changed since the mid-20th century. Of course, how much you pay depends on the vehicle. Small cars might only pay a few bucks, but big rigs have to pay tens of dollars. For example, leaving Chicago for Indiana during rush hour in a truck with an extra trailer can cost more than $60, but often there are free roads you can take instead. By the way, Russian drivers know that in addition to tolls, there are other fees. For example, vehicle taxes and the Platan system, which for 10 years has been charging truckers for every kilometer using a special device in the cab. And what about the US? Well, there's a vehicle tax too. It's based on the weight of the vehicle per 1,000 pounds. It makes several $100s a year. Meanwhile, small cars don't have to pay. But there's no equivalent to the system which would charge per mile or per ton of cargo. Today, just a few states are considering this option. Russians are used to not only paying tolls, but also paying off corrupt police officers. But that doesn't look like a problem in the US. Do they have road corruption here? Have you ever had to pay bribes while doing your job?
If we're talking about the police, here's what I can say. First of all, I've never been stopped for no reason. I've only had like 2 or 3 traffic stops. Each time the officer came up, checked my documents. He just did an inspection to make sure I was driving legally. Then he let me go. Another time I had was driving with another truck, a red one. A police officer outside Oklahoma City pulled me over, checked my documents, apologized, and explained why he stopped me. They were looking for that truck similar to the one I was driving. The whole interaction lasted about 5 minutes. There were no problems whatsoever. I sometimes give some money as a way to say thank you for a quick load or unload. Like when I've already done my job and I see that things could drag on and the person doesn't mind making a little extra, I usually give them 20 or 30 bucks.
So it's a tip?
Yes, kind of. And that helps me get the load off and move on to the next one. It saves me time. I'm not gonna go broke over 20 or 30 bucks, but the time I save is worth a lot.
What do people here think about the traffic police? In Russia and Ukraine, people don't like them. They actually despise them. Cops, traffic cops. Oh, those people, they're a totally different breed. They have nothing to do with drivers. How does it look like here?
Honestly, I'm cool with police. So I don't know what to say. I've been here for 10 years, and I've never heard a rude word from them, or felt any kind of physical force. On the contrary, sometimes, I even saw cops helping out. Like they can change a tire on someone's car. I had a situation where my truck broke down in Montana. It was my first truck when I just joined the company. It was freezing, like -44. I called my boss and explained him the situation. He said, "Call 911." So I called and a sheriff showed. He checked my documents. The police was very careful because it was like 2 a.m. in the middle of nowhere. After he checked everything and asked what was going on, he actually helped me out. He called a tow truck. That is, a truck which hauls semis to a safe place. He bought me coffee and asked me like 10 times if I was okay. Once they got the truck to a parking lot, he drove me to a hotel. Then he wished me a good day and went on his way. A bit later, he came back to check if everything was okay. I was like, all good, thanks.
Beautiful, cozy trucks, thousands of miles of roads, endless open roads across wide open America. No bribes to traffic cops, and pay is pretty good too. You start thinking, maybe I should go for it. But it's not that simple. First, you need a driver's license. You start with a regular driver's license. Russian licenses don't count. You can drive with them temporarily, but sooner or later you have to take the exam again in the US. Next step is getting a CDL, a commercial driver's license. And that has a few stages. First, you take the written test and get the medical check. You also have to prove your legal status in the US. And yeah, you know what's happening today? After that, you get a learner's permit. It's valid for a year, but you're not allowed to work. It's just for practice. You're only allowed to drive with a CDL holder next to you, just like at driving school. The permit is valid for a year, but you can take the exam earlier. For example, 2 weeks after getting it. The exam has 3 parts. First, the pre-trip inspection. You have to check tires, brakes, lights, mirrors, signals, paperwork, and they might ask you what you're checking and why. The second part, the driving maneuvers, backing up, parking, accelerating, braking, all that stuff. Third, the driving test. You show you can handle lane changes, stops, turns, driving with a trailer, starting from a stop. So everything you'll need on the job. If you do everything right and go to a driving school, you'll also have to pay pretty much around $5,000, even though the exam itself is cheap. In Illinois, it's like $30. And you get 2 attempts to pass the exam. They understand that a nervous driver can mess up. Only after you pass everything, you can go on the road, get hired by a company or buy your own truck. So can you cheat the system? I talked about it with Evgeny, who owns a trucking school in Chicago. He said that back in the day, insecure candidates cheated blatantly to pass the CDL. Tell us about the exams. Why don't your students cheat?
Right now in Chicago, it's basically impossible. But there were cases, especially in other states. For example, in Washington and Florida, there are some people cheated on the exam. But the question is how? Here, you can't just bribe an inspector. That would be insanely complicated. I've never heard of it. What they did instead, students would go into the exam wearing these tiny earpieces. If they didn't know the material in English, someone would feed them the answers while they talked to the inspector. You need a special permit from the DMV to take the test. It means you take the theory test on a computer. There were whole schemes. They'd hide a micro camera and put an earpiece in. Someone would see the question on the screen and tell them the right answer.
Why is it impossible now?
Because anyone who passed like that got caught by federal authorities. They went after the organizers and then went through the list with thousands of people. Some had already been driving trucks for years. They forced everyone to retake the exam. So yeah, they had whole lists.
But how? Were the organizers keeping those lists?
Yes, the organizer wrote the lists and the federals followed through. They weren't catching just 1 or 2 people. They went after thousands and made everyone take the test again. Some lost their licenses. The organizers went to jail.
Don't rush to America to get a CDL. You're too late. That window is closed, and Trump is the reason.
A lot of people were getting CDL licenses, thanks to special programs for Ukrainians and others. For example, TPS or stuff like that. Now, they're banned from getting CDLs.
Wait, so they're banned from getting a truck license? Why?
A new law got signed really fast. Now only US citizens can apply for a CDL. Well, and green card holders.
So basically, I come here as a migrant, Dennis wants to hire me, says, go get your license, and I can't.
No, right now you can't.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like, for real?
Yeah, this happened in September 2025.
Oh God, I can forget my American dream.
They passed this law super fast. They just put a halt on issuing CDL licenses to anyone without a green card or citizenship.
And this is part of that Trump politics against migrants?
Yes,
And now?
we have students, but about half of them dropped out. Because they were people without green cards, not citizens. But they're here legally. They have work permits and can stay for years. Now, the government just put all of them on pause.
Wow. But are immigrants really taking jobs away from locals? Because if you listen to politicians who are against immigration, they say locals want to work. But then all these Mexicans, Ukrainians, whoever, come and take the jobs and drive down wages. And then the redneck who hit an opossum on the way to work and baked a squirrel pie for lunch can't get paid as a white American because all these Mexicans are dumping wages. How big is this problem in the US?
Honestly, in our industry, I don't think it's such a big deal. We even have a shortage of drivers right now. A lot of trucking companies reach out and offer positions to our grads. The demand for workers is bigger than the number of students we've got. And many of our students already know where they want to work. So these job offers aren't even that interesting to them.
So how do truckers feel about Trump these days? It seems like fewer drivers are supporting it compared to before. Are drivers talking a lot about the news and what's happening in Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago and Portland come up all the time. I was recently coming back from New York State and drove through Indiana. There are a couple of huge truck parking areas there. I saw their ICE agents and state police. Every single truck on the lot gets stopped. Doors opened, papers checked. No exceptions. There was a bus nearby, and drivers who don't meet today's requirements get put on it and taken away.
Who were the drivers?
Just regular guys you see every day at truck stops. People park to rest, take a nap, get something to eat. Just normal drivers. Suddenly, cops and ICE showed up and started checking everyone.
What happens to the truck then?
It just sits there. That's it.
But what about the load?
Nobody cares. In theory, the driver can call the company, explain what happened, and the company might send in another legal driver to pick it up. But in reality, a lot of trucks just stay there. Loads get lost. And that causes serious problems for shippers and receivers.
It is what it is, friends. Things are changing incredibly fast. Just yesterday, a migrant could get a CDL and drive toward his American dream. Today, this road is blocked by paperwork and bureaucracy. We pulled over at another truck stop. Its main highlight is a gallery that goes right over the highway. All right, what do we have here? McDonald's. It basically reminds me of a mall or a food court. You can use the restroom or stretch your legs in a massage chair. But the best part is this amazing view. There are stools and a counter. Check out this highway. 4 lanes in each direction. Look how insane the truck traffic is out here. Just so you know about prices in the US, a cup of terrible coffee, just a single espresso shot, is $3.79. My God, they actually sell not only double espresso, but also triple and, wow, 4 shots. Like a quad espresso, you literally pay $5.29 for espresso shots. And that's before tax or tips. And the coffee, pure garbage. Awful coffee from some filthy coffee machine. It says Trump gonna fix it. Like what? And of course, the biggest problem no one talks about is that when you're driving across America, and believe me, I know what I'm talking about, you can barely find any real food. You just can't find it. It's not about money. It's not like you're broke and can afford only fast food. It's just that you stop somewhere and there's literally nothing. That gross American fast food is everywhere you look. They give you these huge portions like you're a pig. Everything's drowning in sauces, sugar, calories, more calories. If you walk into a gas station, same thing. Snacks, chocolate, cookies, candy, everything is sweet. If you randomly find an apple, it feels like a holiday. Overall, it's tough. At these stops, your options are pizza, McDonald's, or a random shawarma place. And it's sad, because this kind of food is straight up unhealthy. This is the everyday reality for American truckers. Unless you got a great wife riding with you and cooking in the truck, or you somehow have the time to cook yourself, you're stuck eating absolute junk, and that takes a serious toll on your health. Later on, you end up spending the money you earned trucking just to fix the damage you did to your health. Honestly, it's insane. We walked in and didn't find a single place to eat. Let's go into a 7-Eleven and try to find anything healthy there. So what do we have here? Nuts, more nuts, sauces everywhere, sweets, cookies, sugar on top of sugar. It's just endless sugar. Water, so far, the healthiest thing here. Drinks, good luck finding anything that's not loaded with sugar. Energy drinks, Red Bull, all that stuff. Then again, chips, chips, chips. Candy bars, cookies, rows and rows of protein bars, snack bars, whatever bars. Bread, croissants, more bread, cakes, sandwiches everywhere. The only thing you can honestly call healthy here is fruit. Yeah, fruit has sugar too, I know, but let's be real. Grabbing an apple or a fruit cup is about as good as it gets. Cheese, processed meat, sausages, even more cheese, soups, fried snacks, chips again. So yeah, you stop somewhere trying to buy food, but you have no real options. It's honestly frustrating. Being a trucker isn't just about the freedom, it's also about all these inconveniences. That said, Arsen and Julie are already used to life on the road. Don't you sometimes just want a little comfort? Like a night in a hotel? With a bathroom, shower, large bed?
Sometimes, sure, you really want it.
But you can't?
It adds up. Hotels aren't cheap. Okay, once in a while you can treat yourself. Not every day. Maybe once every couple of weeks, that's okay. But you know, the truck itself is kind of like a small apartment on wheels. Everything you need is there, if you take care of it. Julia keeps the place clean and organized.
But when he drives solo,
Your place is a mess.
Oh yes, that's a different story. Many drivers just turn a cab into a junkyard. Somebody has trash all over the bed. Dirty clothes, food wrappers everywhere. Old chicken, rotting food, that's how some people live on the road.
and you know, those bottles.
What, with pee?
Yeah.
Wait, don't they throw them away?
Sometimes they're just lying around and you can step on one. Imagine that smell. They toss them in trash cans too, so some truck stops stink. In the end, it's all about people.
Some of them just dump their pee like that, out the window or at the truck stop.
It happens too.
But to be fair though, even the smallest towns out here usually have infrastructure.
And that's true.
There's almost always a gas station, a post office, a small bank, or at least an ATM. Compared to other countries, things are good here.
For example, if you urgently need to get an Amazon package, you can ship it to a tiny village along your route. So when you pass through, you just pick it up. That's cool. Logistics in the US are honestly excellent. And if we compare it to places like rural Russia, we'll understand that people struggle just to get basic things. Sometimes supplies come once a month, if that. And here, even in small towns, everything is available.
By the way, while in Chicago, I stopped by a truck junkyard. There you can buy used truck parts. Let's be honest, you can't just stare at new freight liners forever. And finally, you see it. An endless field full of wrecked, broken down trucks. Let's have a look at them. And here's the thing, a lot of trucks don't make it here the honest way. Sometimes a tractor is parked a little wrong, it gets towed, then the owner has to pay insane money to get it back. It's tens of thousands of dollars. Every day it sits in that impound lot. The bill grows by hundreds. Police can't do anything about these towing companies. Eventually, some carriers just refuse to pay, and the truck ends up in a junkyard.
Chicago is especially bad because of low bridges. Drivers make mistakes. They trust GPS. GPS sends them somewhere it shouldn't. One of my drivers went under a bridge. And what a coincidence. A police officer was already there. The cop walked up and said they'd call a tow truck. That's not how it works. Normally we have to call it ourselves. 3 minutes later, the tow truck showed up. It all took maybe 5 minutes total. They hooked up the truck and said, $600. We're taking it to our parking. Once it got there, our safety manager contacted them the next morning. That's when we found out we had to pay them thousands for this. There was no damage. The truck just got a little stuck under the bridge. He could have backed up and driven away on his own. We're not the only ones. I've heard the same from dozens of trucking companies. And honestly, it really feels like the police are part of it, because they do absolutely nothing to help people. Tow companies take advantage of them. So a truck gets towed 5 or 10 kilometers, and a company has to pay tens of thousands. That's what happened to us.
It's just the cab lying there.
It's a classic day cab. You can still sell it for good money.
These aren't new models?
No, they're already old. And I've dealt with truck theft too. At my own company. It happened twice, a long time ago though, maybe 10 or 12 years back. One of the trucks had GPS on it. So me and a buddy actually went looking for it ourselves. Yeah, young and stupid. We got to the south side, to an abandoned warehouse spot. Luckily, the truck wasn't there anymore. There was just the GPS signal. Because the people who stole it would have been there too. I don't think it would be a good idea. And this isn't a movie. We weren't about to go fight gangsters. So yeah, this is real America. Stuff like this still exists. There are businesses out there that make money this way. Because they have connections with local police departments, and for some reason nobody can change it.
The mattress is still new.
Yeah, the mattress is here. Just needs a little cleaning. What do you think?
I need to think. Can I look at all of them? And over there, they're already getting rid of what didn't sell.
I think I found a truck for you. It's just the configuration you wanted. It's easy to get in. There's no door. You can just climb in. You don't even need to pay for AC.
And we can even stand while driving.
Just like in an office. We'll just bring you a stool.
That's a good one. So we're taking it? Definitely. It's almost new.
All that's left is to get new wheels.
Are you sure it's a good choice? Sure. Russians don't fool each other. So guys, this is what a truck junkyard looks like. Some trucks crashed, some got towed, and no one paid for them. Now they're rotting here under the Chicago sun, waiting for a new owner, and everything else gets scrapped. Maybe truck graveyards will grow in the US because our world seems to be on the edge of a tech revolution. Self-driving cars are already on the road. So why not replace old trucks and drivers with autopilots? To be honest, I do believe that automation, AI, and self-driving tech will totally change our lives. I think that self-driving trucks are basically tomorrow's reality, because it will help deal with a big problem. Drivers can't drive trucks 24/7, so trucks just sit around most of the time. Drivers only drive 10, 11 hours. Some drivers party, do Ds, and you have to pay them a lot. People make mistakes when driving and accidents happen. It just makes sense that automated trucks are the next step in freight transport. But Dennis doesn't agree with me. Dennis, why?
Look, you gave examples with passenger cars, right? They can park themselves, drop you off at the door, remember your parking spot. But trucks are completely different. Trucks have trailers that bend, so they have to back up. Then they go to different companies. That is, there's no fixed spot or simple routes. There are lots of reasons why trucks won't be fully self-driving anytime soon. Look, a tanker's driving ahead of us, right? It's carrying fuel or whatever, but it can be dangerous stuff. I don't think any state would allow a self-driving truck to haul something like that. It's just too risky. And it's not just gas or diesel. That could be chemicals, too.
What I'm trying to say, what I want to say is that autopilots are way safer than humans today. Look at aviation. Don't you agree that piloting a plane is way harder than driving a truck?
But it's safer, too.
Planes fly and land on autopilot, they can take off, land, etc. It really works. Even if something happens in the air, most crashes happen because of pilot error. It's a purely human factor, same with driving. Autopilots have already been tested, and it's clear that computers drive safer. They can monitor way more things, so it's safer than a human. So when it comes to trusting a tanker to a human or a robot, the robot's safer, obviously.
Theoretically, yeah, but practically it won't work yet. Here in the US, not sure about Europe. But truck theft is a huge problem. If you have a self-driving truck, someone will find a way to stop it, shut it down and steal the cargo. What are the perfect conditions for those trucks? They pull onto the highway from a truck stop and drive in perfect weather. Good road, clear lane markings, good visibility. But once they get into the city or narrow spots, or drive in bad weather like snow, rain, or fog, they'll face tons of problems. There will be plenty of moments where a human is still needed. Some companies will use self-driving trucks. I'm not saying it won't happen. But it's going to be a really long process to adapt. I'm not talking about 5 years. Probably it'll take like 10. People will still be needed in cities. Trucks drive long distances between states, between cities, thousands of miles. Let's say if I had a self-driving truck now, I could send it to California, smooth ride down the highway. But it still needs gas. Someone's got to fill it up and pull over, for example. No robots grabbing the pump for you. So they'll probably create extra paid services for that. And then you need someone to park the truck because conditions aren't always perfect. If you talk to truckers, especially in big cities, New York, LA, San Francisco. Not everyone can drive there or to park a big truck. Nobody want to drive there. I'm sure a self-driving truck definitely won't do that either.
Robots rising up like Terminators, right? I'm not going to New York. Truckers don't know what scares them more, soulless tech progress or Trump's new rules. Of course, long trips between states and new cities are tempting. But over time, you realize truck driving isn't a dream job.
We moved here in 2019. Back then, a one-bedroom apartment cost about $1,100, $1,200. Now it's $1,700, $1,800 at least.
You could buy a house for $200K then, and now it will cost you $600K, $700K.
And salaries are still the same, no difference at all. And thanks to new laws, we're losing the jobs that supported us for 5 years.
Both of us. At the same time.
What now? We'll have to find new jobs. We wanted to get out of trucking, but maybe in a year, once we save up some cash. We're first-generation immigrants. Our kids will study other things and grow in different fields. But the first generation is the real bottom. This is what we're going through now.
How do you see your future? How much longer will you keep doing this?
I think I gotta keep working a bit longer because of my family. My son's a student and I want to help him finish school. You know, I want to help him on his way. Education's expensive here in the US. And the field he wants needs much money. So yeah, maybe 5 more years on the road.
What's your American dream? Your goal?
I think the American dream is financial freedom.
What's financial freedom?
We're simple people. $1 million in cash would be enough.
Honestly, can I answer? Honestly, I just want to cover basic needs. And I really want to travel the world. I want to have the opportunity to see the world. I want to get a green card, citizenship, have a home of my own. Better if it's paid off, no mortgage.
Without mortgage is tough, though.
Boy, so what's your American dream?
My American dream? Well, most probably. I think it's having a paycheck that lets you live well and have a decent life.
What's decent life?
Decent life means having your own home and knowing your family is safe. I don't care about brands or fancy stuff, just a normal life. Good housing, good food, good rest. That's what a job should give you. Not this one exactly, but what I want for my family.
How much do you need to make a year to live a life you want?
For me, my salary's enough. About $120,000 a year. That's it. That's a solid middle-class life.
So yeah, that's truckers' life in the US. For some, long hauls are romantic. For others, it's just routine. Some become truck drivers for adventure. Others do it just to make a living. Tens of thousands of truckers roll down American highways, hauling goods and keeping state economies growing. But maybe soon this job will no longer exist. Soon trucks might be driven not by immigrants from Russia, Ukraine, or Mexico, but by smart autopilots. Those trucks are already being built and might soon be ready for their first run. Who knows, maybe the industry will end up like the railroads. Back then, trucks replaced trains, and around them grew a whole world with its motels. And now robots will replace immigrant truckers, and they'll flip the business and everything around upside down. Or maybe the US trucking crisis will hit even sooner because of new immigration rules in the US. Trump is enforcing stricter rules, and it's sad for those who came here, worked honestly, and now don't know what's next. In trucker talk, visibility is zero. Not even high beams can help. You can't see what's waiting for you. So, friends, drop a comment. What do you think about truck driving? Would you want to drive a huge rig, haul loads, watch sunrises in New Mexico, and eat dinner in Los Angeles? Or maybe you're already trucking. Tell me your story about how you became a trucker. Don't forget your likes and comments. Catch you later.
Всем пока.